What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. So I'm Shannon Tynes. Ryan Williams is not with us today. Like I said before in the previous week's episodes, right? He's out there, they're sunning and funning, you know what I mean? While we're back here doing the thing, you know what I mean? We're gonna keep it going, you know what I mean? But for everybody out there, so look, let's like, share, subscribe to the podcast. All right, we're getting very close to this 500 mark. Last week it was about 40 short. I don't know where we're at right now, but please tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody that'll listen to you about this podcast where we out here doing good work. All right, so the discussion for today, all right, what we're going to talk about. So last week, you guys that were tuning in, you already know we talked about CrowdStrike. We're going to hit a little bit different this time, right? So this article is actually from MSN.com, written by Kevin Williams. And the title of this one is CrowdStrike Losses May Be Biggest Test Yet of Cybersecurity Insurance Risk Warning from Warren Buffett, right? So the Oracle of Omaha, right? Like, even though he's not a cyber guy, right? Like him and doing his investments, right? Kind of plays into this a little bit, right? Because he said earlier in the year, he was talking about this, about how cyber insurance, he was telling investors, he was like, do not pursue this unless it's something that you absolutely have to do. Like, unless the customer is like, hey, it's something, it's a make or break type thing. Like he wasn't too thrilled with the idea of it. And I can kind of see a little bit of the point, right? So I kind of see a little bit of the point in that when it comes to this, especially for this one that just happened with CrowdStrike, like there's still more that's going to come from this, right? With everything that happened with CrowdStrike, with the airlines, with hospitals and things of that nature, what these insurance companies are going to have to start paying out for is loss of business, right? Potential loss of business. So it's different when it's insurance for like a natural disaster or something like that, right? Like if you have a hurricane, you're saying it costs this much to rebuild this building, right? You don't necessarily have this here. You just say, hey, my potential losses were this, right? And then somebody has to foot the bill for that. Like, how do you deal with that, right? And I think that's kind of one of the things where the Oracle of Omaha was getting at when he talked about this earlier, right? So again, with the CrowdStrike thing, it was a quality control issue. Some places were only down for a few hours, right, where they had issues. There were some that went a few days, right? I want to say there's small. It's got a smaller. They're having smaller issues with it right now, even like a week later. Is it a week and a half later ish?
Yeah.
But it's not as widespread as it was, right? Planes are flying, hospitals are up and running. There's little stuff here and there that are still being felt with the CrowdStrike thing. But like I said before, I kind of see his point, right? Like the cybersecurity insurance market, they got a little lucky in some respects with this one, right? Because it wasn't something like I was saying before, where you have a tangible amount of money that can come from, hey, this is what we lost, right? But again, there will be people coming after them saying, hey, I'm going to file this claim with you guys. I have cybersecurity insurance. I'm going to file this claim with you guys because I lost this potential business. You know what I mean? And it gets a little shaky. It gets a little murky when you start doing that about potential losses and things of that nature. Even in civil courts, right? When people try to go after those things, it's up to, a judge to say, okay, I could see this, that, and the third. Like, what do you have backing this up, right? Like, they're especially with these big companies, like these airlines have up and down quarters, right? So how do you know it wasn't going to be a down quarter, right? That's what the insurance company will say, but like, oh, it didn't look like it was going to be a good quarter starting out, and then you guys were already going down. So if we are going to pay out anything, it'll be at this. We're not going to go for this record high. You're trying to say that you were going to have this quarter. You know what I mean? But Chris, what's your thoughts on this, man?
I mean, my first thoughts were like, okay, so he's advising companies to only sell cyber policies to clients to absolutely satisfy clients. So it's almost like, hey, maybe you guys shouldn't be selling cyber insurance to everybody, right? So the first thing that came to mind, I'm a Floridian, right? So I'm like, wait, this is almost the same situation. Hey, it's getting crazier with the weather down in Florida. There's global warming, or rather climate change. The housing prices are insane. So so it's almost the same thing, right? At least, but again, I am not an insurance specialist, right? But first things that come to mind are what type of events are insured, guaranteed. I don't know the black and white in the specific cyber insurance policies what is actually covered, because we know, hey, you can get into an accident with your car insurance, but there's all sorts of factors that can contribute to if you're going to get paid, or if you're responsible, or if the other driver is responsible. So I'm thinking about cybersecurity in the same respect, right? So in this case, would CrowdStrike cybersecurity insurance have to pay? We don't know, right? Those are my real first thoughts, really, with this CrowdStrike thing. But really, to me, this is kind of just, hey, cyber insurance, vet your clients prior to selling them. Make sure that they've got a baseline level of cybersecurity in place prior to being able to sell to them, right? I know there are baseline requirements for cybersecurity. Hey, making sure you've got scanning, yada yada, making sure you got policies and procedures in place. But again, like, different companies, right, have different metrics for that, depending on their operational risk and what they've got risk to their business. So it's really complicated the way that I think about this specific issue. And when you got something like CrowdStrike, something that you believe is going to be reliable, right? Hey, I bought this Toyota, but it broke down. What's going on? That's really what's that's kind of how I see the situation. And with the big man Warren Buffett saying this stuff. This is when he speaks, right? The markets and companies listen.
Yes.
So something's going to change, right? Cyber policies, I think there's going to be a lot more clarity moving forward with cyber insurance policy. And there's going to be a lot of cyber insurance policies. They're going to be backing out of stuff like, hey, if this CrowdStrike type incident, if it's found to be a fault of a manufacturer, they might not be covered, right? So like Shannon was saying earlier, they did get lucky that there's no physical damage or a hard lives were impacted, but loss of life, stuff like that. But you never know, right? So moving forward, the landscape in cyber policy and insurance is just going to change. It really is going to change, and there's going to be some smart marketing, business professionals, cybersecurity professionals that work with businesses out there that are going to provide these products to these companies. You know what? They got to be profitable, right? So they're going to try to do their best to make sure that this type of event is accounted for. So Danny, what are your thoughts?
So before you take over, I'm sorry, man. So like, to your point, like, to address that. So these insurance companies, they're making money for doing nothing a lot of the time, right? Like insurance is like Chris Rock said, is for just in case stuff. He didn't say stuff, but I'm gonna say stuff, right? It's for just in case stuff. So, but here's the point: like, they don't care because they're getting money, right? Like, if nothing happens, everything's good. They're just collecting, right? And that's what they love, right? And something else they bring up in the article is this hasn't been litigated enough. Maybe it's just a matter of time before there's enough precedent on the books. You know what I'm saying? Before, now we know which direction we're going to go to this. But sorry about that, Daniel. What's your thoughts on this, man?
No. You made a good point, and there was something I'm gonna kind of add to what you just said there. And to what Chris said as well, to get cybersecurity insurance. So my company that I used to work for just went through it last year or the year before that. It is very difficult. Like, the length of proof and the body of work you have to show to be insured by a cybersecurity company is not just like, hey, here's our ledger and this is like an SOP and that's it. And they're like, okay, cool, you got cybersecurity insurance. No, it's a very lengthy process. And you have to do due diligence and show due process. And after all that, and then they'll come back and ask for more and more and more. Then, depending on the size of your organization, then they will insure you and X, Y, and Z. It's not just as like, you fill out some forms, sign on the dotted line, and then you get it. So that's one. That's the one thing I wanted to highlight here, because you guys were talking about it. 2 points I want to try to make, and I'll try to like focus and not go all over the place like I usually do. So number one, so Warren Buffett and what's this other guy's name? Ajit Jan. I will respectfully say, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Don't come after cybersecurity and cybersecurity stuff, because the thing is that when he speaks, the masses listen. And if it's not difficult enough as a cybersecurity practitioner sometimes to get into the CEO and the business side's ear to get money for cybersecurity stuff, when things like that is said, even though it's talking about cybersecurity insurance, it trickles into the cybersecurity world regardless and makes our life a lot harder to go to bat to fund cybersecurity as a department in a whole, right?
Right.
So the second thing I would highlight about it is that they're talking about cybersecurity policies, but in this instance with CrowdStrike, it was an IT thing that happened, right? It was a bad update. So there are service level agreements that exist for goods and services from CrowdStrike that should cover these kind of things. So that's why I'm saying I'm a little surprised that Ajit and Warren kind of like, they need a cybersecurity guy, or maybe they need to listen to our podcast, or they can call all of us. We'll consult them. We can multitask here. I'm okay with it. But I think they missed the target with the arrow they were trying to shoot. Now, I understand his point, and I do agree with what he's saying that cybersecurity cybersecurity insurance as a business is risky. Of course, yes, it would be super risky if there weren't so many hurdles to go over as an organization to get it. So I think he needs a cybersecurity insurance investment person on his staff to kind of like really speak to what's actually here. Because the one thing that will happen is that after he spoke and this goes forward, they're going to think of the CrowdStrike incident and cybersecurity insurance as one-to-one, where it's IT insurance probably and service level agreement of CrowdStrike and how they're patching and all that stuff. Where the real focus needs to be on is, investment on patching solutions, patching infrastructure, how you do your testing, rollouts, and those kind of things. We need insurance for that. That's where that spoken into the service level agreement for organization going forward. Hopefully for CrowdStrike, they probably have an airtight one, because I can only imagine what their legal department and their business department looks like. So I'm pretty sure they're covered on their ends. But regardless, when you got Warren Buffett and these people talking like this, and the stock's already going down 17%, and they're bleeding from all over, it's just going to add more fire to the flames. Cybersecurity professionals everywhere are going to cry themselves to sleep, because now they got to kind of talk to their business people saying, hey, don't cut my funding, don't take less from us, because then it's going to be even more difficult for us to do our job and prevent a CrowdStrike like incident. So those are my thoughts. Not to
I think it's
all over
double-edged
Warren
sword,
Buffett.
though. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a double-edged sword when like I was saying earlier, and I think the money, they are executives at the high level that are far removed from the technician, the cybersecurity professional out there. They're looking at the bottom line, right? For us, like, hey, our perspective, there's more things important than the bottom line, to include cybersecurity, to include things that could potentially impact your entire organization as a whole. So it's really a risk analysis, right? Kind of with what you're alluding to, Daniel. It's like, is the risk worth it? Is cyber insurance worth it? Right? What is the delta between, hey, we're going to get screwed by this cyber event, or hey, we can get a payout from the cybersecurity insurance company, right?
Ransomware. Ransomware for organization. That's where it lies. Like if you don't have it, and you're going to get hit by ransomware at some point if you're an organization, some way or form, and you don't have cybersecurity insurance, and then they're asking for money, and then you're put between a rock and a hard place. Where do you pay for it or you don't? And then if you pay for it and you don't get the key back, or they just then disclose all your information on Wikipedia or on the internet, and you're doubly screwed, and you don't have the insurance, then where are you as an organization as well? So I think, it's kind of like you dual-edged sword is a very good analogy. No matter what, I think it's not so black and white to say that, hey, being a cybersecurity insurance company is risky. Yes, it is, but business need is out there for these organizations to exist. And if I was an organization, I would definitely be going out and getting some. And it's profitable, right? It's like just in case stuff happens, right? Like Shannon put it, which I like. Just in case stuff happens, and 9 out of the 10 times it probably won't, or at a lower scale, and you're still going to get paid, and you're still going to ask that organization to show you, from A to not even Z, from A to like a reverse Uno card or something like that, to show you how you as an organization and your cybersecurity department are up to par with what's out there in the field. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Do you hold the Uno card up like the Yu-Gi-Oh cards?
Yo,
Is that what you-
Yeah. Especially for ransomware. I'm just like, please, just don't take reverse it on you. But yeah.
So something you brought up, Daniel, and like it's making me think now because I didn't think about it when you talk about the Warren Buffett thing and stay in his lane. Like for me, when I read it, I took it as he's an investor. That's what he's looking for. He's trying to make it to where people can get the most money out of whatever investments you do, right? But like to the point of what you were saying, like when Warren speaks, people listen, right? They listen, but they may not understand in this case what he's saying, right? And then it just goes into people just thinking, oh, okay, well, if he says I don't need cybersecurity insurance, then I don't need cybersecurity departments. Like that's not what he was saying, right? But you're right. Like he's creeping into something that could be misinterpreted because he's so powerful, right?
It has compounding effects, you know. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point, man. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But this is a good discussion. I like this one. We got some different views even on where we were, right? Like I was like, hey, I understand Warren. Daniel was like, Warren, be quiet, you know. So we got some different views on that. So that's always a good thing. That makes for a good podcast, you know what I mean? But thanks, gentlemen. Again, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So again, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, anybody that'll listen to you about the good work we're doing out here, right? Usually we have another member of the team, Brian, who's out here sunning and funning, right? So he should be back next week. You should have the full crew, right? But again, anywhere you have your podcast, anywhere you listen to your podcast, make sure you tune in. Find the name, The Other Side of the Firewall, The Other Side of the FW. Again, all the social medias, of which I have none. Chris, where can they find you at?
You can find me on LinkedIn under Chris Abcon, last name spelled A Bacon.
And what about you, Daniel?
In LinkedIn as well, under my name, Daniel Acevedo.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, stay secure.